everybody, my name is Mars, you can call me MG if you'd like, and today I have for you a bonus TBR video because I am participating in 3 readathons in the month of April, and I figured that warranted its own separate video away from my regular TBR that I do every month. So that's what this is. I'm going to go through the 3 readathons that I'll be doing, and picking books for the different prompts for them, and talking to you guys about all that. So without further ado, let's just get into it because this video might be kind of long. So the first readathon I'm going to talk about is the TBR Takedown-athon, which is hosted by my dear friend Jess over at the Hex Library. By the way, all of these channels will be linked in the description in case you guys want to check out the announcements yourself and not just go off of what I say about them, because I'm probably not going to explain things well. But TBR Takedown-athon is inspired by a game that Jess played for many, many years to keep track of her reading habits with regards to her physical collection of books. And so there is a bingo board for this that I will not be using because it is optional. It's just in case someone needs a guide for prompts. I did not want that because I am taking part in 2 other readathons and there's prompts plenty from those 2. So I'm just going off of the main part of this readathon, which is the scaling page counts to get badges. So I don't remember what any of them are, but basically if you read this amount of pages you get X badge, if you read the next amount of pages you get Y badge, and so on and so forth. So that's what I'll be doing, and I am not 100% decided on this, but I think I'm going to be splitting this up into 3 tracking systems. Well, 1 tracking system that I'm splitting into 3 parts. So I'll be tracking physical books that I read, ebooks that I read that are my own, like I've either bought them or downloaded them for free more likely, which I do a lot. And the 3rd category is borrowed ebooks, because I do have Everend and a couple of other ways to access ebooks, and I want to keep those 3 separately to see where my page count falls for each of them. Just a little bit to spice things up, I guess, and I'm kind of curious what it would be for each of those categories at the end of the month. So that is the first readathon, TBR Takedown-athon, and my goals for the month with that, I guess. Next up, we have the Magical Readathon. We are once again returning to Aurelium with G from Book Roast. This is the 3rd year, I want to say? 4th? 3rd full year, because there was like an initial beginning one that was kind of separate from the way things regularly happen. But this is the, I'm pretty sure 3rd year I'm doing it, and I'm staying with the same character, Berenice. I love her, I just think she's a cutie. And I'm going to stick with the same calling, which is Moon Warden. At least I think it's the same calling. I'm like 99% sure, but I could be wrong. But there are 5 prompts to go with this calling. I should explain what a calling is. Basically, the gist of this readathon is it's a magical school. You study to get a different profession or calling, and you can like level up in that calling or choose a new one each year. I'm leveling up in it. And so there are different classes, and each class has a different prompt, and each calling has a different set of classes. So the Moon Warden has 5 classes that you have to pass in order to get through this semester. So I have picked out books for those prompts. So the first class that I have to take for the Moon Warden calling is Elemental Studies, with a focus in Calling Lightning, and the prompt for this is a source of light on the cover. So I'm going with the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, and this has a bunch of stars on the cover, which are sources of light. And this also has my biggest pet peeve when it comes to art, and that is when there's a crescent moon and people put stars on the inside of the crescent, because that's not a thing. The moon doesn't turn invisible so you can see the stars behind it. There are no stars between the Earth and the moon, because otherwise we'd be dead. It just really bothers me. I know it's such a teeny tiny nitpicky detail, but I really, really can't stand when I see that, and I see people put stars in like the black area of a crescent moon all the time. It just grinds my gears, but I'll be reading this book for this prompt regardless. Next up we have Astronomy, with the focus being Constellations 3, and this is a zodiac recommendation. So I went over to Goodreads and I found a list of books recommended to Virgos because that's my zodiac sign, and I found The Yellow Wallpaper, which I'm pretty sure I've read before, but it would have been years ago when I was in high school, and you know what, why not reread it? Next up, in Art of Illusion, we are studying Shadow Play, and the prompt for this is a book with either game or play in the title, and I will be reading The Bellwoods Game, even though it's a little bit out of season, because I think it takes place on Halloween, or at least in the fall, but I don't care, I'm gonna read it anyway. The next class is Restoration, with a focus in regaining consciousness, and the prompt is a book that would get you out of a slump, and I am choosing Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson because I adored both Vespertine and An Enchantment of Ravens. They were very quick, very gripping reads, and I feel like if I was in a reading slump, Sorcery of Thorns could be a book to get me out of it. Then for spells and incantations, the spell we are learning is Quick Count, and the prompt is a random number generator for the title length, and I think I put it between like 10 and 30 as my range, and I got 16, so I had to find a book with 16 letters in the title, and I will be going with The Seeker's Shadow. Then we finally come to the last of the readathons that I'll be participating in, and it's kind of a big one. This is the Tomes and Treasures readathon hosted by Jem from The Creepy Geek and Ashley from Ashley's Bookish Life, I believe is the name of the channel. I did not know this person existed until Jem posted this announcement video, but then I obviously went and subscribed. I'm pretty sure it's Ashley's Bookish Life, but regardless, linked down below for you to check out. This is a D&D themed readathon, and the focus of this iteration of it is to create a character, and I have decided to create my D&D character that I'm currently playing as, Micah Blightsong, who I'm playing for the AuthorTube D&D game that we have recently started. Little promo for that, go check out the Blank Page Tavern. The lovely Wallissimo has put together this whole thing where it's a bunch of us AuthorTube friends playing D&D. We're playing Tomb of Annihilation, and we've had our first session at the time of filming this. It was so much fun, and I can't wait to keep going. So Micah is the character that I have created for that campaign, and I've decided why not recreate them for this readathon. So there's 10 different prompts here. Well, there's 9 different prompts that like you actually choose, and then the last one is a little bonus one that we'll get to. But basically I went through and answered all these questions as if answering for Micah, and then I picked books for them, so let's just go over those. The first character creation question is what race is your character, and Micah is a tiefling, and the prompt for tiefling is queer rep, which I find really funny because when I was making my character, I went to go tell my boyfriend about it, and I was like, yeah, I'm making a tiefling, blah blah blah, and he got this look on his face, and I'm like, what? And he's like, of course my gay girlfriend picked a tiefling, because tieflings are kind of like stereotypically what queer people play. I just think they're really cool, and it just fit for me. So for queer rep, I am picking The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. I'm not 100% positive if this has queer rep, but I googled it and someone in a blog post mentioned lesbians. I'm gonna count it. I have this gorgeous Barnes & Noble edition that has these metallic pink sprayed edges that don't show up well on camera, but I'm obsessed with. This is gonna be my first Crystal Sutherland book. I know Jess from the Hex Library, my friend, loves Crystal Sutherland, and I've been excited to pick up her books for a while, so now I finally will. Then for the class, Micah is a druid, and the prompt for this is either nature as a major theme in the book or a book with shifters, because druids can wild shape is what it's called and turn into animals for a little while. And for this, I'm going with one that's not your like shifters in the more accepted sense of the word. But I'm going with The Encounter, which is book 3 in the Animorphs series. I'm counting it because they shifted to animals for a little while, and I think it's funny to pick Animorphs as a shifter book. Then for the background, I couldn't really pick what Micah has, so Micah's background is in archaeology, but that wasn't an option for this readathon, which is understandable because there's a bajillion backgrounds in D&D. But out of the options, I feel like Sage fit them best, so the prompt for this is just wisdom type vibes, because sages are very wise people, and so I have translated this into a book with the mentor trope, and I will be reading The Slaves of Sokro by John Flanagan. This is book 4 in the Brother Band Chronicles, the spin-off to the Ranger's Apprentice series. It's just the next book in my readathon that I've been doing kind of for myself, where I read one book from the series each month, so I'm very excited to get to this. Then for the upbringing, Micah was brought up in a forest setting, so a book with a forest setting that I'll be reading is The Bellwoods Game, which I have already mentioned. You'll see quite a few overlapping books here across the readathons, and that was the first of them. Then for deity, I don't really know if Micah follows a deity so much as just Earth, I guess, but I went with the nature deity prompt because why not? And that is a book with nature on the cover, and I have picked The Secret Shadow because it's got all these flowers on the cover, and that's nature. Next up, we have alignment, and Micah is chaotic good, and I really like how the alignment section of the prompts was set up. So basically, alignment in D&D is this 3x3 chart, and along one axis you have chaotic, neutral, and lawful, and along the other axis you have good, neutral, and evil, and you basically pick one from each side and find your square, and that's your alignment. So Micah is chaotic good, and the prompt for chaotic is orange on the cover, and the prompt for good is yellow on the cover. So a book with yellow and orange on the cover. I'm kind of fudging this a little bit because I'm not totally sure if this cover has orange on it, but it's very yellow, so I'm counting it, and that is the yellow wallpaper. Then for armor, Micah has leather armor, and the prompt for this is a light or pale cover, and I'm going with Titus Andronicus by William Shakespeare because a majority of this cover is this, like, not quite white, it's kind of like a peachy color, at least down here at the bottom, and it's got like an ombre effect. It's a light/pale cover, so I'm counting it. Then the last two prompts that I got to pick books for, one is a spell and one is a weapon. So the spell that I've chosen from the list is Fairy Fire, which is a spell that Micah actually got to use in this first session that we played, so it was very fun. But the prompt for this is a book with Fae, and I will be reading Beautiful Nightmares, which is book 4, I believe, in the Fortuna Sworn series, and I can't wait to get to this. Then the weapon that Micah has is a quarterstaff, and the prompt for this is a book that was recommended by a friend, and I'm going with Sorcery of Thorns, which was recommended by my friend Madison. And finally, we come to the last little bonus prompt, and that is a skill test, where basically you roll a d20, and you will have already made a list of 20 books that you maybe want to read. Maybe some of the lower numbers are books you don't necessarily want to read right now, and you read the book that is associated with that number. So I have made a list, and I went through like stages in making this list. First, I looked at my 24 in 2024 list, then I looked at my priority series and added a couple of books from there. Then I looked at my 30 by 30 list, and that still wasn't enough to fill out the whole 20, so then I went to my bookshelf and pulled some physical books off of there to add to this list. And then, finally, the 20 spot, I put the book that I got on my Aurelium TBR that wasn't already on my Tomes and Taverns? Tomes and Treasures? Taverns? Why am I blanking on the name of this readathon? I literally already said it in this video. Anyway, it's on the one TBR, but it's not on this TBR, so I figured that'll go in the 20 spot because it'll mean I don't technically have to add a book to this TBR. The number 1 spot, so if I roll a 1, which you don't want to do because a 1 is a failure, 20 is a critical success. The spot for number 1 is Inferno by Dan Brown, because that's the book that's been on my bookshelf the longest. It's been there since 2016, and I just don't want to read it, but I'm also not going to get rid of it, so I probably should read it at some point. But that's why it's number 1. So I'm going to roll my d20, and I'll film it for you, and then we'll talk about the book that I get. Okay, so here we have my d20. This is technically a Pathfinder die, like it's from a set that was specifically labeled as Pathfinder, but Pathfinder and D&D are pretty similar. So I'm gonna roll this and hopefully get a good book out of it. Ooh, I almost dropped it. We got, okay. We got an 18, so I'm gonna consult my list and then come back and talk to you about the book that I assigned to this number. So the book that was number 18 on my list was an ebook. I was kind of hoping for another physical book because I have barely any on my list for the month, but ebooks are fine. But the book that I got is Like a River Glorious by Ray Carson. This is the second book in the Gold Seer trilogy, I believe it's called. The first book is Walk on Earth a Stranger, and it is a historical fiction set during the American Gold Rush, and the main character, Leah, can sense gold in the ground. Things happen. The first book was so good, so I'm very glad to be continuing this series, even though this does add another book to the list. So here we have the 3 physical books that I'll be reading, and then I have, I think, 8 ebooks on the TBR. That's quite a lot of ebooks, but it's fine. I have not yet filmed my TBR game for the month because I'm filming this kind of early because I knew what books I wanted to read for the prompt, so I figured why not get ahead on it. And I'm gonna wait like a week or so until closer to the end of the month before I film my TBR game. Hopefully for the 3 prompts for that, I can fit in some of the books that I've already got. Like I said, I've got 11, so hopefully I can fit some of those into the prompts I pull for my game, but if not, that's fine. I'll just read more books. But I guess that's the end of this video. I hope it didn't end up being too long. I've been filming for a while, but hopefully I can edit it down for you guys so it's not just me rambling for who knows how long. Be sure to check out all the links in the description, follow all these cool people creating these cool readathons. I'm so excited to read these books for April. I love readathons so much. But that is the end of this video, so if you've enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.